Now, I think this is the most significant of all the archaeological pieces that we found. Taylor Cook and I of the Squatchwatchers actually found this little guide together. What it is, I think, could change not only the conversation around Bigfoot, but perhaps our understanding of archaeology in the Americas. Now, I will say the habitation that we were investigating, that the Squatchwatchers invited me to investigate, was full of activity. Signs of them manipulating their environment were everywhere, but this takes the cake. These are stones that were stuffed in that stump. This is exactly how I found them. They were probably about 200 yards away from a gifting area, so I don't know if that was in response to the gifting area. But they had been there a while, and they're not just rocks, they are worked. These are artifacts. And when I realized that these things were leaving artifacts out, here's another one. We started to kick around. Now, this one that I just showed you is definitely in response to a gift, because that Pepsi there was left out by the Squatchwatchers, and that stone was placed there, they said, for about 6 months before we took it home. This piece was discovered about 20 feet away from that tree that I just showed you. At first, Taylor and I thought maybe we had found an axe head, but we were so wrong. This one on the top is the one that was in the tree. Now, that cutout that matches the other piece is what made me first realize that these stones had actually been manipulated. Here you can see another angle of it. These two pieces, I think, are effigies representing probably the same thing. And I'll do another video breaking down some of the similarities of different pieces that we found, but right now I want to focus on this one because I think it's the most important, kind of the Rosetta Stone of the whole find. Now, why do I think this is Quetzalcoatl? Well, first of all, this side is a bird. You've got the beak, you've got this big eye, and then you have this wing structure that comes around. Now, this curvature of the wing, it's as if it's been extruded. Now, check this out. These are actual feather markings. These lines, I believe, represent feathers, tail feathers, on the bird side of this structure. Now, where that wing comes out, it also becomes other images. I believe that when this was brand new, it was very smooth and there was a lot going on. It's very pitted right now, but check these little lines out. You can still see some of the detailed work. It's very pitted, but I think that's because it was painted at one time and it has suffered oxidization. This wing, the way that it comes out, creates another image or a few other images. And I think this whole wing is essentially a canvas. I'm going to play with the exposure a little bit and also kind of highlight some of the forms that are standing off of the statue and some of the forms that are sunken in. These sculptors played a lot with depth, and under proper painting and lighting conditions, all of these images would have just jumped right out. This is not an uncommon technique for ancient artists to utilize. There's a lot of ancient structures in India, Egypt, South America that are layered with imagery. So you'll have an icon that's covered with other icons, or an icon that's covered with depictions of stories about that icon. This is very common, and I think that's what we're looking at here. It is a dual-natured effigy. Check the top of this out. It's almost like these two hemispheres were like glued together. How weird is that? But the other side is a dragon. And I say dragon and not, check that eye out. Look at the roundness of it. It has a straight pupil, not a round pupil. It cuts right down the middle of that round eye. You can still make out some of the detail of it. The reason I say it's not a serpent is because, well, it's not. And I'll show you in just a second. That I was pointing out the nose there. There's even still just a trace where you can see the little slit of the nose. But check that head out. I mean, it almost looks like a gecko or something, or like a dinosaur. So fascinating. I've never seen anything like it. Look at the curve of the spine. Check its wing out. Definitely no feathers on this side. It's very smooth. Got that reptilian appearance. I think there were carvings all over this one as well, but again, much of that detail is lost, although I think you can still make out some images that I'll go into at a later date. But let's check this out. So the reason I say it's not a serpent is because, oh man, look at that eye, is because on the underside you have an arm. That little arm tucked away there helps to support the statue and to balance it, but it is definitely an arm. And check this out. There is a smooth surface here in this cavity. It's like a cement, and it's the only part of the whole statue that has it. Perhaps the whole statue had it at one time, and this is the only one that's left. I don't know. Of course, it's not fitting with the Quetzalcoatl motif completely. I mean, it's not an on-the-head representation, but I think the concept of a plumed serpent or a feathered dragon, a dual-natured god, is present here. And I think that any even armchair reading of those mythologies would lend itself to this imagery pretty well. And we know that there were mound builders nearby at this location, North Carolina. Mound builders also all up and down the East Coast, all up and down the Mississippi, what they call the Mississippian culture. We know that those cultures existed, and many people speculate that they did influence the tribes of South America, and maybe even were culturally linked at one time. I suspect they probably were, and I suspect that that's what we're seeing here. And where the legends get really weird, and where they, I believe, connect to Bigfoot, and I think this is actual solid evidence that maybe these legends are real, is that those cultures, the North American native cultures, all have stories of giants that they deposed of, that they killed or ran off. And then you have the South American cultures, the ancient cultures, claiming that some of their most ancient structures were built by giants that came from the north. I'm not saying it is exactly Quetzalcoatl or Kukulkan or whatever, but the motifs are striking. You let me know what you think. I would love for someone in this field to take a look at it. I haven't had much luck, to be honest. I have reached out to academics and they just won't even look at it. So I'm turning it over to you guys. I'm turning it over to the internet. You let me know what you think. If you know Graham Hancock, give him a call. Shoot him this video. Somebody needs to look at it.